So as sometimes happens, we have an impromptu question, which is always fun. But Amy, we were just chatting offline a little bit. You mentioned in your last clip about dating and how dating connects to religious upbringing and how that's very much on the mind of some parents. Can you share a little bit about how those two things intersect and whether it differs in different religions and different religious experiences? What have you seen there?
Yeah, no, that's a great it's a great question. And when we were talking offline, I don't think I realized, and then Jill made it kind of clear to me how thorny this issue can be for church leaders. And in retrospect, I think it totally makes sense. But I think in general, parents, one, want congregations to be fun for their kids. And I think for a lot of young people, religion can be weird, especially if they're of a smaller religion. So if say you're Mormon or you're a Jehovah's Witness or some of the even Muslim parents, they realize that they're a minority in a majority world. And so congregations can be really useful if there are other young people there that they can then point to for their own kids and say, hey, look at, we're not weirdos, they're here too. And so I think that's helpful for parents. I think it's also helpful for parents as a channeling mechanism. So, they can go to congregations and they know that they share similar values, and that's great. One of the things that struck me as really interesting, I was telling Jill that years ago, probably 20 years ago now, I was one of the first wave of ethnographers on the Birthright Israel trip, which is continuing on today. And Birthright Israel trip is intended to take young people, usually around college age, who are Jewish but may not have a particularly strong Jewish identity, to Israel on this really incredible 10 or 2-week trip where everything is paid for, and they get to hang out with other young people who are also maybe somewhat nominally Jewish and see all of these great things in Israel. And I was saying that when I went on the trip, as a young person, I was probably just a little bit older than those people were. I think I was in my mid to late 20s. I was surprised at how many young people were sort of hooking up. And I remember being kind of alarmed by this. I grew up with a conservative Protestant background. And I thought, oh no, they shouldn't have sex, or they shouldn't get too into it. And then the leaders at the time said, no, Amy, this is exactly the kind of thing that we are encouraging. We want them to meet up with other young Jewish people and go from there. Like, great, they're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend now, or they're going to whatever, they're going to have this connection, or they're going to have had this really wonderful time. And I mentioned too that we were integrated with some other Israelis, and these other individuals were just really lovely people. They were also very attractive people, which of course then led to all kinds of hookups with these additional people that were brought into our group. And I at the time I remember thinking like, oh gosh, is this going to create tension? Is this, and it was exactly what they wanted. Like, it was very planned from the start that they would interact with each other, and that the hope of a romantic relationship was absolutely desired. So I guess different organizations definitely look at this issue in different ways, and our parents tended to talk more about hoping that their children would have a romantic match through the congregation, and less about not hoping for that, if that makes any sense. That could be a real positive for parents and for congregations, as if they could meet somebody else who shared the same values and background and religious beliefs. So I'll stop there, Jim.
Yeah, no, I find that fascinating. And as we were sharing offline, I think, again, just as we talked about with just the religiosity of upbringing, I think youth leaders and parents are probably coming at this from very different perspectives. And this is a sweeping generalization, but my experience of working with mostly progressive Protestant church traditions is that people want to be sex positive. We want to be a different voice from the purity culture that has been damaging to folks in the past. But we also, there's sort of a sense of, please don't have sex on the youth trip. Like, this isn't allowed, right? And we, okay, like, you could date, but like, we need to be careful about what that looks like in youth group, right? Like, all that stuff. So it's absolutely fascinating to hear that parents might actually be thinking this is a good idea and youth leaders might not. So just again, very different perspectives to be coming from. And everything flows from that, how we interact with each other, our programming choices, all of it. So that's fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.